just wanted to quickly set the scene and refer to one of the reports that Dr. Bratanova has mentioned. I saw that Melbourne is actually one of the biggest cluster of companies adopting and innovating AI actively. So this is a very good setting and a very timely situation for us to be discussing this. So thank you for Asia Society for organizing this event and having this conversation with us. And now I'll introduce our speakers today. We've got Nicola on our panel. He is an entrepreneur and dedicated supporter of the startup community in Australia. He is the co-founder of WePloy, Australia's first on-demand customer service staffing solution, as well as Neat, which is a workforce management tool. He continues to innovate in recruitment, earning accolades such as 40 under 40 most influential Asian leaders and top 100 leaders in Australia. Next, we have Eva Zhuang. She is a partner at Boman Group, where she leads global unicorn fund strategy, which invests in some of the most scalable and transformative companies investing in technology and AI. She also oversees the firm's equity capital market services and provides strategic corporate advisory services across the APAC region. And last but not least, we have Mahesh Krishnan, who is the Chief Technology Officer for Fujitsu Oceania, where he focuses on the adoption of new and emerging technologies with customers. He has been in multiple very senior leadership roles within the tech industry and has written numerous technology books and has also been a recipient of Microsoft's Most Valuable Professional multiple times. Welcome to our panelists. So I'll start us off with a question for everyone on the panel. In each of your fields of work, how do you think AI or other emerging technology has been used or is being used to grow business?
Sure. Firstly, it's really my honor to be a part of the program today and have the opportunity with our amazing panelists and emerging leaders. So I am in financial service industry. I'm partner at Boman Group. And a big part of my role is to look after our technology startup portfolios. So coming down to day-to-day work and how AI has been helping us, I would like to break into three elements. So firstly is origination. So that is a key part of my role and my team. And secondly is the management of our portfolio company and reporting. And the third one is investor relations. So I think in the first one, deal origination, prior to AI, my role, I take a lot of time in reading reports, getting inspiration, who's leader in the particular industry, and find the competitors. But I think as AI evolving, it's absorbing different data source from public information and some unique databases as well. So currently what I do is simply ask a question like, what best programming assistant in the market, can you give me a list? And that really saved me a lot of time, and I can utilize this time in due diligence, like ask competitors, look at financial reports, so that saved me a lot of time. And secondly, on the reporting side, because in my firm, we do not only serve Australian investors, but we do have international investors as well. So I normally do like two copy of reports, one in English, and I will have to translate into Chinese as well. But as AI evolving, I think what it can do is not simply translation, but it can reflect my tone and also do a pretty formatting as well. So I can do different reports just in minutes. That's secondly report. And third thing is insights about our customer needs through the ERP system and CRM system we built. So the utilization of AI can really give us real-time inspirations, like which events our clients in which are the hot topic they would like to hear more, and we can organize sessions and like reports in the such area. So that's my examples.
Great. Thank you, Eva. Mahesh?
Look, I can give a slightly, like a more unique perspective because Fujitsu is a company, is a bit of a system integrator, so we work a lot with customers. So I can probably give what we do with customers and then how and other emerging technologies kind of like help us as well. So as a company, Fujitsu kind of like invests, and a system integrator, like we invest a lot in new technology in terms of R&D and everything else. So for us, we picked a whole bunch of technologies right now. AI features prominently, right? And again, when we talk about AI, people generally start to think about Gen AI these days, you know, because of ChatGPT and everything else. But there's more to it, right? So classic machine learning, if we can call that, right? Classical AI, it's still got a lot of use. A lot of people still use it. We invest a lot in it. Gen AI, of course. Vision AI is another one. You know, how you use, you know, what we call as computer vision or, you know, Vision AI. Look at images, video, and everything else, kind of like how to use that. How does the AI kind of like interpret that and come up with things, right? Another one that we is around things like investment is around in computing. And when we talk about computing, we talk about things like high performance computing. And as the usage of AI becomes more and more, you kind of like need all these high performance computers and everything else to process a lot of this data. So we invest a lot in that, create our own chips and everything else for that matter. And then we do a lot of things in quantum computer. I mean, these are some of the kind of like emerging technologies that we invest in. Right? I mean, there's a whole lot that I can keep talking about and where we invest. But in terms of like how is it kind of like useful, like how is it generating value for businesses and so on, it's just across the board for a lot of our customers. I mean, you know, we spoke about, you know, the mega trends that the talk that was there just before us. There talks about things like you know, like people living longer and things like that, right? And so, in terms of like in the health industry, discovering new drugs or accelerating the development of drugs from, you know, years to kind of like months. A lot of that is possible through, you know, things like AI and quantum computers, even for that matter. And then it touches upon every industry for us. If it's like manufacturing, and you know, can we use AI to look at product defects? Can you optimize how processes are done? And that's how our customers are actually using it. And surprisingly, you know, like not surprisingly, I mean, like Japanese, being a Japanese company, they're very, very purpose-driven. Our focus is around sustainability, right? And we talk about materialities of how do we improve the lives of people, you know, how do we improve planet and prosperity? And you think about all those kind of things, and you talk about the mega trends, it touches upon some of those things. Maybe not so much about prosperity, but prosperity is like improving productivity and improving, you know, all those kind of things kind of like is covered in that, right? And so for us, AI touches each and every aspect of that, improving that. From our internal perspective, right, we use it, I mean, we look at it from, it touches every business, I mean, every part of the business, operationally and so on. We have an office of AI that is trying to promote it actively, right? And so, you know, whether it's cutting code, you know, which we do as a system integrator, you know, a lot of writing code and everything else, so we use that. We have a chat engine that helps, we call it Chat AI. So you go in and you do a whole bunch of things, and irrespective of what part of the business you are, whether it's legal or, you know, HR and so on, they can do a whole bunch of things like creating, you know, PowerPoint slide decks, for example, or creating new, answering questions for, you know, like tender responses and so on. So it kind of like touches every aspect of it, right?
Great, thank you for the overview, Mahesh. What about you, Nick?
Well, first of all, everyone for attending, and thank you for this, and thank you for Asia Society for organizing such a great event. It's quite important for these forums to happen and for us to share our story and our experience. I'm going to speak from, I guess, from my point of view as an entrepreneur, now turned into venture capitalist now. I think with AI, what I'm seeing right now is giving the ability to do more with less. I think the key word for me is probably efficiency, very similar to Eva here. Being an entrepreneur, the only thing you're probably thinking about, or whoever's thinking about starting their own business, is doing more with less and the only question you're really thinking about is really getting to product market fit, getting to a minimum viable product as fast as you can. So I agree with Eva, like, you know, when you're researching like a market, the problem, your competitors, something that I personally took 12 to 24 months doing it, and by the time we figured it out that we may have a solution, we were too slow. Very slow, to be honest. The whole point of doing startups is the ability to be fast, nimble. The whole thing in startup world is when, you know, big fishes, there's red tape, it's really hard to maneuver. But in the startup world, it's really no longer the big fish, it's a small fish or the fast fish that beats the big fish. It's the whole reason why Netflix single-handedly took out blockbusters, you know, but they can move fast. So with AI and the progression in AI, I think it's a really amazing time to be in this space and actually living it. I think 10 years, 20 years from now, we're just gonna look back like, what happened? You can see amazing startups, you know, that are growing 1,000x, 2,000x, exiting within 3 to 6 months. And as entrepreneurs or founders, like for me, if I had these tools probably 10 years ago, I could imagine for our business, we took 7 years to grow across 3 continents. A lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of late nights, I would say, where I'm seeing with some of the companies that we're investing into now, they're getting to $1 million ARR in 3 months, unheard of. When we started. So I guess for me to sum it up is, I think it's having the tools there, you're just gonna be more efficient with your time, and you have speed on your side and access to data. Like everyone says, information is king. I think it's how you use it as well. It doesn't really matter if you have the data at your fingertips, it's how you use it. And I think for all leaders, you know, all emerging leaders, I think it's quite important to how you get the data and how you utilize the data. I guess so, yeah.
Great, thanks, Nick. And I might keep you talking. So from that entrepreneurial perspective and having worked with so many new and emerging startups, as you mentioned, what do you think is working in the Australia startup ecosystem and environment? And what else would you like to see in this space?
I think Australia itself is still very young as a country within the tech startup scene. I think we're doing all the right things, like from visas to R&D rebates. We're pushing in the right direction. We're stretching our dollars out as far as we can. I think we have all the right traits to become, I wouldn't say we're maybe like a small powerhouse, like a little Silicon Valley. You know, Australia is a pretty small island. You know, our market's not that big, but we've got really good traits where testing an international market, Australia's pretty good for it. You know, New Zealand's just around the corner. We're just so close to APAC. So I think it's so multicultural, which means we have access to talent as well. And with the power of AI, like remote is a real thing now. If you asked us pre-COVID, you know, can I work from home? I think everyone would have said like, you're a little bit crazy there. But I think, you know, we've got a couple unicorns underneath our belt now in Australia, so we should be proud of that. And we're following the same trajectory that I see like with Silicon Valley, where the moment that you start building some unicorns, those unicorns create seeds, right? And that's the whole thing about seed investment. You know, you work for a Dell or like a unicorn. The executives get their shares, and then they go off and build their own business, and they become mega business. And then, so I think Australia is there, and that's how we create opportunity and jobs, and we're creating new jobs. Everyone keeps on saying with AI you may lose more jobs. I think it's going to create more jobs more than anything. And we're just talking about it. When we talk about efficiencies, the more efficient we get, I would say, the more we're going to use. I have these discussions about jobs and technology and computers all the time, and the more efficient you get, the more you're going to grow, I think, yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. And just to draw on your point about talent and having that sort of Asia intelligence in Australia, I might ask Mahesh the next question. You working in an intercultural workspace or workplace, I should say, in that Fujitsu is a Japanese company operating in Australia. So I wanted to ask you, what are your observations in terms of innovation and R&D in this kind of workplace? And how do you think Australia and Japan can collaborate to position ourselves as tech leaders?
Okay. That's a great question. Look, I think a couple of things. I'll probably try and answer the first part of your question, right, initially. And we talk about diversity, right, in the workplace, and the same thing applies to kind of like innovation and R&D and everything else as well. Whenever people talk about diversity, and then immediately we go towards gender diversity, but it's all about, we bring that gender diversity because we want to bring that diversity of thought, right? And so, kind of like when we have this kind of like multicultural in Asia and so on, and in Japan and Australia, we are able to kind of like tap into that diversity of thought because we have so many different cultures, so many different people from different speaking different languages, different backgrounds and everything else, and that is a big contributing factor for this, right? I mean, this is one of the reasons why Fujitsu kind of like invests in R&D across the world. I mean, like we do a lot of investment. I think it was like over 100 billion yen that we invest every year on R&D, and we split it across different regions. I mean, there's investment in Asia, in India. I mean, like actual research centers, in Europe, in Americas, and of course, we're very huge in Japan as well. And we find that each and every region has that kind of like unique, kind of like, I suppose, speciality, if I can call it that they bring in to the core, right? So that's one aspect of it, right? And in terms of the second question, you're talking about Japan, Australia, kind of like collaboration, right? I mean, there's a number of things that actually work really well. First, I think where we are placed geographically, right? I mean, like we are closer to Asia. Australia is closer to Asia than the rest of the world. And so even with Japan and everything else, depending on where you live, I suppose it's only like a 2-hour time difference. So we're almost in the same time zone. So in terms of collaboration, everything else, it really helps. We of course closely align ourselves with, what we call APAC and so on and so forth. We closely align ourselves with Asia and everything else. But then Australia is kind of like very Western in the way, we speak, the primary language that's spoken over here is English. And again, very Western in terms of our thought process and everything else. And when we want to test things with the global market, which probably when there's a large part in the West with US and everything else, we offer like a really good sampling of that Western kind of culture, like under 30 million population and everything else. So that works really well, right? But there's a twist to it as well. I mean, you think about Australia, 30% of the people in Australia are born overseas. So bring the diversity into it, right? I was talking to a professor from the university, and he was saying that 60% of the researchers in Australia are born overseas. Again, you add to that mix in terms of like diversity and everything else. It's huge here. Look. Apart from that, I think even from a geopolitical sense, very stable governments, Japan, Australia, and we have extremely good relationships with each other. and all of that kind of like helps with that collaboration. I think just a couple of weeks ago, there was a major announcement in terms of like a defense contract with Japan and Australia, buying some warships and everything else from Japan and everything. So there's a lot of that collaboration that actually happens. So look, I think Japan, Australia, in terms of collaboration, everything has been like, from an Asian perspective, that's really, really good, I think, in my opinion.
So it sounds like we're on a good trajectory and able to build more impact.
Absolutely.
Yes, thank you, Mahesh. Talking about looking into the region, so Eva, I know that you work a lot in investing in the region. Can you tell us some of the industries or consumer segments that you've seen are benefiting the most from Asia's AI wave? And what other industries do you think have the potential to use AI a bit more?
Thank you, Vivian. So firstly, I really like this question, but I would like to take another step back. So firstly, I think AI is like electricity. It's like utility that will benefit in every industry. So coming back to the question, which industry? I think all industry, that's one. And secondly, thinking from Australia perspective, so we are a neutral region, that we have the ability to embrace the AI, the innovation from Asia, but at the same time, we have the same ability to understand what's happening in the US, in the North America as well. So from venture capital investment perspective, especially we look at late stage innovations. I feel like although the AI innovation has been coming, like improving on day-to-day basis, but the focus on different regions are different. So for example, in China currently, I'm seeing a lot of waves. They have the combination of AI plus robotics. For example, there's a restaurant I really like. They do hot pot called Haidi Lao. And what they're utilizing AI and robotic is they actually utilize this technology through the whole process of the restaurant, including dish preparing, like chain restaurant, and even to checkout process. So I think for other countries have the limitation of like manpower to have the lack of service. I think that is a sector that's potentially being benefiting with. And if I look at the US, I really like what Nick mentioned. We see the similar trend that AI has been helping a lot of small teams to making bigger impact. So there's a company I like a lot called Cursor. What it do is it's like coding assistant that help people do like programming and project with zero code or no code. So it's really efficient. And what I really like about this team is because the understanding towards programming, by understanding the ability of AI, they are able to create 100 million ARR within 1 year, and the team is as small as 12 people. So I think coming back to Australian market, we're able to embrace the innovation from different markets and apply to the industry that we want to serve, the customers we want to serve. And I think that will lead to more like unicorn innovations as well. So I like Canva in Australia. It's a big unicorn company and has been leading in the cloud service software for a couple of years. And what it do is it understand the need from designing industry and creating AI tools and like efficient tools to empower the industry. So I think that's my answer to the question.
Great, thanks so much, Eva. Now I might go to the audience for questions. I think there's a roving mic. Oh.
2, 3. Thank you so much. It's a really, really fantastic range of questions and And we all have a lot about growth and innovation and the way that AI is, fast tracking that. And I just, from a social perspective, I wondered if any of you had thoughts on the ways that AI might be needed to be managed around aggravating the particularly frayed social dynamics that we see, not just in Australia, but around the world.
I can go first. Look, I think when we talk about social dynamics and things like that, one of the biggest questions that gets asked around is AI going to replace kind of like human jobs kind of thing, right? Replace humans in effect. Look, what we kind of like believe in Fujitsu is like they'll not replace humans but augment humans, and together, that's one aspect. And the second thing that actually gets thrown around is like people who know it's not like AI going to replace humans. It's like humans with the knowledge of AI going to replace other humans. There's another thought that actually goes around a fair bit in the industry. But having said that, right, I think we've got to be very careful in terms of like how we do implement AI and the pace in which the adoption is done and managed, so that it doesn't kind of like start to create these what I call as short-term effects, like job losses and things like that within the industry. We've got to manage that a little bit more carefully, right? That's one aspect of it, right? The second one is around the responsible use of AI that gets thrown around a fair bit. And it's really important that a lot of companies kind of like start to look in that angle and how they adopt ethical practices and so on. We talk about these three things at Fujitsu. We talk about fairness, accountability, and transparency, right? So is the AI being fair, no bias and everything else, right? Accountability, if something goes wrong, you need to have a human to be able to kind of like take the responsibility for that. It's something going wrong. And the third thing is around transparency and trust. Not that any decision that's come out of AI is like, you should be able to explain that and say like why that it came up with that decision. And that kind of like then improves the trust in the system itself, right? Hopefully that kind of like answers your question, yeah?
I'd like to add on that as well. So firstly, on social impact, I think replacement of jobs is one of the biggest concerns. But I would like to think this way. So like the previous wave of innovation probably to be smart devices on computers. And they definitely replace some of the jobs, but at the same time create another wave of new jobs. So I echo on the point that to understanding these tools, to utilize AIs and find more value creation, I think that is the job for organizations and governments to think about. And secondly, I think on the regulation side, because if we talk about AI, there are essentially three layers. So firstly, computing power, secondly, data, and then come to AI applications and language models. So data is actually a very important part in it, which data we're feeding into the AI system, and that actually leads to the outcome. So I think some regulations need to be placed there, like what value we would like to teach these AIs to, generate their feedbacks, I think. So allowing computation in the space is important, and the value of these AIs, I think, is another important point.
Thank you. Do we have a second question?
Hello, thank you so much for this incredible discussion. I'm Hannah Burke from La Trobe Asia. I would like to touch on, and it's connected to the first question. So Nick and Eva, Nick, you touched on how AI will create more new jobs than taking jobs. And Eva, you've touched on how in China, for example, they're using robotics and AI, particularly for jobs in restaurants like self-checkout and things like that. My question is, on a hopeful term or note, what potential new jobs will be available, particularly entry-level jobs for young people, thanks to AI, and especially in your sectors or spaces? Thank you.
That's a really good question, actually. I'll talk about our business first that we created. So we were essentially an on-demand platform for customer service. As any kind of entrepreneur, you want to kind of build a moat around your business. AI was definitely a threat for us. But, you know, like everyone knows, where there's a threat, there's an opportunity. So I think I agree with Eva here. Like, we didn't see, I think we looked at it wrong in the first place, where we thought, okay, customer service, people handling the phone, there were chatbots. I've seen technology where it can mimic accents. Someone on the other line is actually just an avatar. I've seen it now. But essentially, I think it creates jobs where it's triaging information for you, so you can really solve what matters for the organization. So we, you know, your Medibanks, your Boopers, the largest companies in Australia, and we're now seeing like more businesses being more efficient with their time, which means they can create more jobs as well. At the end of the day, any business is always going to be looking at their bottom line. But if you're being more efficient with your time, there's going to be more opportunities to invest in the other areas in the business. So I think that's probably where I think it's going. And you just got to, I guess, not just be competitive, but be innovative and be a little bit more forward thinking about how you see your business. And with the conversations that I'm having at C-suite level, I think probably 3 or 4 years, everyone's like, hey, what are we going to do? We've got a call center of 2,000 people. AI is coming in. We're going to have to lose everyone there. That's not the case at all. Like, they're actually creating different teams which add more value to the organization. You know what I mean? So we work with Super Retail Group. Before it was just a call center. Now they've got a refund center. Now they've got an upselling center. They've created more functions, creating more jobs, pretty much. Yeah. Hopefully that answers your question. Yep.
Yeah, I think I will add in another example on the question. So I think by creating jobs and create values, essentially it's the understanding towards human needs. And previously, before AI, before the efficient tools, I think what businesses do is finding the majorities. Like for medicine development, we would focus on the big problems rather than the rare cases that 1 in a million people would suffer from. So I think AI and the efficiency tools can really create and like focus on the problem and create values. I think that's number one. And I think to the consumer cases as well, because there's well, I'd say it's a scary example that my teenager sister, so one day she told me, I developed this game. It's a simple game. She developed within like 2 weeks and published to her classmates. So I think it's really helping the innovation, helping those developers to tailor to the needs and preference to a particular group of people. So I think the innovation will coming from there. That the more the diversification will be well looked after through these efficiency tools.
Mahesh, did you also want to add?
Let me add one other thing, right? I mean. I think there was probably a point in time, right, when people used to put in their resumes that, hey, look, I know how to use Word and Excel and PowerPoint and things like that, right? I'm sure that happened. And nobody does that anymore. I mean, like, you know, when you come out of high school, you probably have those skills, right? And I think it's going to happen the same thing with AI, right? Eventually, now, you know, people are saying, oh, look, you know, I know how to do prompt engineering or whatever it is. There's going to be a time when everyone will have those skills, and when you come out, everyone's going to assume that, hey, you know, you have those kind of like basic AI literacy kind of thing, right? And that time is going to come, right? Maybe not now, but in the future. But again, you know, it's like I said, everyone should probably upskill themselves with AI at this point in time, right? If you haven't already, we spoke about cursor.ai and, you know, vibe coding, as they call it, like people going in and just doing coding. Startup companies, right, founders who have very little knowledge of coding, background or developing skills, they are using vibe coding to actually generate code. It's just going in Cursor AI or something like that and say, hey, look, I want to create an application that does this. And it just creates it, right? And there's so much more, they can so quickly generate things like prototypes and MVPs and things like that. And so I would suggest, like, if you're looking at new things to learn and everything else, right? I would say, upskill on prompt engineering and things like that and see how well you can actually use AI.
Thank you. I think those are some really good insights into creation with AI, but also how young emerging leaders can start thinking about using AI in the future. I think we have time for maybe one more question.
Yes, thanks for the very illuminating conversation. So it looks like there's two main constraints that's holding back Australian tech unicorns from really scaling up, or more of them from scaling up. One is identified by the Business of Council of Australia's recent submission to the Productivity and Economics Roundtable, and that is the lack of enough financing given to these tech unicorns to help them to grow. And another is that the Australian domestic market isn't big enough, so there isn't perhaps enough room for them to scale up and be able to really step out into the global market. So what's your advice for how to solve these two issues and help Australian tech unicorns grow?
As in growing unicorns to grow bigger, or grow? I don't know, I'm not really in the unicorn space. I'm kind of in the early stage part, but I think Australia does a really good job of exporting our unicorns overseas anyway. I think most of our larger funds, like your Airtrees, your BlackRocks, they're on Fund 4, Fund 5, and that's really growth funds. And a lot of the LPs in there, which the lending partners are there, are actually and abroad anyway. I think someone like Eva, you keep an eye on all this stuff, I think the moment that you pass Series A as a business and you slowly get into that unicorn status, a lot of eyes would be on you already. I don't think it's really there's much restraints in Australia. Airwallex was built out of an idea out of a cafe. You know what I mean? They were supposed to be pitching something else. I remember. I can't remember what it was, but I think Lucy was there. She was already like an investment banker, and they changed the idea. And then look at them now. They're one of the largest fintechs in the world. So I don't think there's a restraint. If that's your question, I think it goes back to everything. With any kind of business, if you're solving a big problem, I don't think as founders, entrepreneurs, they should be really thinking about that is very important to drive the business, but if you're solving that problem, the money will come. Unless you're not solving that problem, then it's going to be very hard. You're going to see this like staircase of a growth, right? Because you're somewhere along the line in your tech stack or your solution, you haven't really truly gotten to product market fit. And sometimes you can brute force your way through. Some companies do 300 mil a year, but they truly haven't hit product market fit, so they haven't really scaled. So to answer your question, I think I don't really agree if there's restraints on finance. Maybe Eva can shed on it. Yeah.
I actually agree with you because when talking about unicorn companies, we're talking about companies' valuation of more than 1 billion. So if I look backwards, so how to give a company that valuation, you have to create probably $1 trillion value that you tap into the markets that perhaps are not Australia only, but global, and being a competitive players in that place. So I think it's come down to which problem you're trying to solve. Is that a big problem enough? What is your total addressable market, and be a significant technology leader in that space? And I'd like to say on the funding side of Australia, I think we're at a very good position. So if I look at the funding component of ASX 200, and I think that is a great example. So we have roughly 50% more coming from Australia local market, from the institutional investors, super funds, but we also have 25% from North America, and more than 10% from APAC and Europe as well. So I think being a significant like technology leader markets can create a very good spotlight that you're not only attracting Australian local funding, but international fundings as well.
Great, thank you so much. I took so many notes so furiously, but if I can wrap up from what I'm hearing in the conversation and from the questions, we are seeing that to create a sustainable and resilient business pathway sort of in the Asia and Australia space for tech and AI in business, we need to kind of balance how we understand, how we use AI, how we leverage it for speed, scale, efficiency, and sort of managing the social impact and creating frameworks for responsible AI, but also thinking about how do we create value in terms of products and services to customers, but value for our own workforce as well across the companies and companies that you work with. So thank you very much for your time, and please join me to thank all of our panelists today.